I think it's so funny that the kid looked at her like she was crazy. Like, I can itch my balls out here, lady. Like, why would I have to go to the bathroom to deal with that?
How to survive the classroom.
Hey, teacher besties. Welcome to How to Survive the Classroom. I hope you guys are having the best week right now. I've had a very stormy week. When I am recording this, we just had the wildest storm front come through. And you guys know, I'm from California originally. And people who don't grow up in California think that like the earthquakes are so scary. But if you grow up with it, it's kind of one of those, you're like, well, it's rare. It barely happens. I only actually remember like one or two earthquakes growing up that I could actually feel. And because it's one of those things you just kind of get used to it, that it never really fazed me. The thing that is a struggle in Southern California, where I grew up, is the fires. Like that truly, I think it is an equivalent to dealing with the storms in the Midwest, is that like every couple of years, depending on where you live, everything burns down. And at the very least, you're probably going to get evacuated at some point if you live in Southern California long enough. I remember when I was in high school, I actually school got canceled. We would have like bad air quality days instead of snow days because there was so much ash and soot in the air. And so that is like my comfort with natural disasters, is like that's my comfort zone, because fires generally you can see them, like they're coming, you can move, all of that. And with tornadoes, which is what the biggest warning was last night, it is you don't know. Like they tell you big weather's coming and it might be a tornado or it might not. And yesterday we had a tornado warning, which means that the little scanner things they've either seen it, or that the scanners are saying one is the funnel cloud is coming down in our area. And so a tornado did touch down 10 miles from my house, which is terrifying. My kids and I were home without my husband for most of the night. And again, I'm from Southern California, and my sweet baby kids who are also most of their lives in Southern California. So they don't I had to be the adult and the calm one. And my daughter was like, this makes my stomach hurt. And I'm like, I know, it's okay. Everything's fine. Everything is fine. And it was, thankfully. We didn't get the worst of it. We actually didn't even get any hail or anything like that, and no trees went down in our neighborhood, but it was really terrifying. So I hope wherever you are safe from scary weather right now, because spring in the Midwest is a whole different vibe from what I am used to. But earlier this week, I got one of those emails that as a teacher, we always absolutely love to get. So my very first year teaching, I've told you guys that I taught a journalism class and I taught English 12. So it was a very big gear shift between those two classes, because my English 12 class was a lot of seniors who had failed the previous year's state testing. So they were rough and tumble type of kids, and then I had my journalism class, which was anything from freshmen all the way up to seniors. And that class was a wild card, not because of the kids, but because of me, because that is the class where I would perpetually get myself into all kinds of chicanery because I didn't know what I was doing and they gave me no curriculum. They basically were like, hey, we'd love to have a journalism class. Want to teach it? And I was like, yeah, I wanted to be a journalist for 5 minutes. Let me at them. And one of the kids that I taught when I was in there, I absolutely adored. His name was Yehoshua. And actually, he eventually got into my journalism class. But the beginning of this was that he was just somebody who hung out with some of my students. So I would see him before school, after school, at lunch. And he was this tiny little freshman boy who was very into close-up magic. And he would do these card tricks, and truly some of the most impressive card tricks I've ever seen. And I'm not just trying to gas him up. I was amazed. And maybe I'm easy to amaze. That's entirely possible. But I really enjoy seeing people who are really good at sleight of hand type of magic. I think it's really cool. I don't need to know how they did it. I just like to wonder, right? I think it's really cool when people can do that. And it also is pretty hard to do it. So this student, who I absolutely adore and have not spoken to in probably a decade, he reached out to me. And a little bit more context to this is that one of the things he did to me to harass me and to see me squirm is he convinced me once to play a movie on my projector screen that was very popular at the time on YouTube called Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life. And that is a horrible, horrible YouTube clip. It is like honestly, like I'm telling you not to look it up because I genuinely don't think you should. And I projected it on the screen, and there is like a sexual thing that happens between Shrek and a young boy. Like it's when I say it's bad. And it was very upsetting, and I yelled at him, and I was so mad at him. But from that point on, he would then have Shrek, like part of his magic trick and part of messing with me is he would hide Shrek all over my classroom. And I actually really like the movie Shrek. Like I grew up loving it. I was in like 8th grade when I think it came out and was obsessed with it for a really long time. So I used to really love Shrek, but this kid used Shrek to bully me incessantly for like the entire year, right? And I would like pull down my projector screen and he would have taped like a giant Shrek head. The end of my time at that school, he actually made a paper mache Shrek head and hung it in my classroom. So when I opened my door on my last day of school at that school, there was a Shrek head hanging there. So I like that kid, right? Just trolled me forever. I haven't talked to him in a very long time. About like, so this would have been like 2014, right? I left that school in 2017. So it was about 3 years of being bullied with Shrek things. And then this week, I got this video from the student. I did get permission. I asked him if I could share the full video with you guys. So here's the video that I got sent this week.
So I saw a movie the other day that reminded me of a magic trick I learned a while ago. And I just wanted to share that with you today. So all we're going to do is we're just going to stop at any one of these cards. Say that one right there. All right. And would you look at that? It's the Queen of Hearts. Queen of Hearts, she's called that because she's looking for love. And we're going to try and help her find love today. All right? So we'll just ripple. You could tell me to stop at any time. I would stop. We would look at the cards. Could have told me to stop anywhere. Could have been that guy. Could have been this card. But we stopped right here. And now at first glance, it might look like the king and the queen would be a good match. You know, they're both royalty. You know, he's a little bit shorter than she was, and you know, they just don't really match. She's looking for love, and he's more in it for the material relationship. So it could work. They could make it work, but it just doesn't feel right now. So there's an old saying: if you love something, let it go. If it comes back to you, it's truly yours. So we're gonna let him go somewhere in the middle of the deck, like so. And then we're just going to check the top card and see he came back. So maybe it is truly meant to be. But at the end of the day, she's just not feeling that spark. Because she has a strong will to find love, even though it feels so far, far away. But somebody once told me, where there's a will, there's a way. So if she wills hard enough, then maybe, just maybe, her true love will reveal himself. Because, as you know, Shrek is love and Shrek is life.
So if you don't watch this on YouTube, I highly recommend you watch it because you will see his sleight of hand is actually pretty impressive, even after 10 years. But at the very end, so he has a normal deck of cards with a normal, like all of that. And then at the very end, the king card turns into a card with Shrek on it. And it's so bad because as I was watching this video, right, I was like, the first thing I thought when I saw him, I was like, so help me if Yehoshua freaking Shreks me again. This kid, right, who, by the way, now is in his mid-20s. I don't know if you guys heard in the background, his child, he's a father. He's married to one of my other former students. Like, he is a father. And he spent the time to do this. And then I didn't even notice the first time I listened to it, but he talked about how the first king that the queen was with was too short, like Lord Farquaad, perhaps. And then the great reveal of Shrek at the end. But it was so funny because as I was watching with my husband. I was like, do you remember the kid who used to Shrek me? He sent me a video and he's like, oh no. I was like, okay, but like the video was so long that I was like, okay, well, no, I'm safe. He's not going to Shrek me again. I think we're okay. And then the reveal at the very end, I died. So I had to share that with you guys because I shared a little teeny bit of it on social media, but the context of it is so funny. The fact that he like has his kid squawking in the background just cracks me up. So I wanted to share that with you guys this week because there's nothing better than when we have former students reach out like that. Like I absolutely love it because it just shows that there's an impression, right? Like that they have fond memories of the shenanigans of like working with us and all of that. And when I talked to him, he said that he's actually is getting back into magic a little bit and he's wanting to maybe do some like parties and stuff like that. So I told him if he has an Instagram or anything like that, that I would definitely link it for him. But now it is time for us to jump into the submissions. And I cannot wait to hear what you guys sent to me this week. So let's listen to the first one.
All right, real quick. My first year teaching, I had a sophomore girl started to stand up to give a presentation, and as soon as she stood up in front of everybody, she stopped breathing. And basically, she got to the point where her eyes started poking out of her head, and she just wasn't breathing at all. And within 45 minutes, 2 minutes, she just sat down, quit breathing. And within 2 minutes, after me going from questioning to yelling to, oh man, we got a problem, called the principal, called the nurse, and then within 2 minutes, she started gasping for giant gulps of air. And nurse came in, was able to calm her down after about 5 minutes of this just giant gulps of air and getting her to calm down. And then her parents showed up, and me being a brand new teacher and trying to understand what had happened within this 6 minute block, which felt like an eternity, of this sophomore girl who just got in front of the class and completely mentally shut down, where she just had her eyes poke out of her head, not blinking, gasping and gulping for air in front of everyone. And her parents told me that, oh yeah, she has anxiety so bad that she will just, quit breathing. Yeah, that was awesome. And then that led into really ridiculously loud screaming fights about confidentiality and about, uh, you know, various laws, in terms of students. And hey, maybe you should let your teachers know that like they'll quit breathing and not put them in front of other students.
Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to think of how I would handle that. Number one, I would think that it was an allergic reaction. I think that would be my first thing is I would be like, who's got an EpiPen? And that probably would not have been the right thing to do in that circumstance. I cannot even imagine. Number one, I'm really shocked that that wasn't in an IEP or a 504 because anxiety is one of the things that we have as like a listed disability that we should be able to accommodate for. And usually, especially if it's something that's severe, parents like let us know ahead of time that that's the case. So that is absolutely terrifying. I'm trying to think if I've ever had a student who exhibited that kind of anxiety. And I don't think I did, but I don't think my students would have been scared enough of me to refuse to go up. Like I've had students refuse to perform. Like I for sure have had students, especially early on in my career at some of the schools that really wanted lots of presentations. Like that was a big emphasis for us. And I had students that were like, I'm not going to do that part. And I'm like, okay, but it's required. And they're like, yeah, I won't be doing that. And you can't make them. Like, there's nothing you can do. If a student says like, hey, I'm actually not gonna stand up in front of everybody. You can say, please do. You can give them some sort of grade consequence, but like ultimately we can't make them do anything. And I did get to the point where I was just like not gonna fight a battle that they really, really, really did not want to go up. I'm like, all right, well, that's fine then. And this actually raises a really fascinating question is that like should we be pushing students to speak in front of classes? Because there's been like I know in a lot of states and in the Common Core even there are definitely some like grading things that say like they need to have experience presenting information in front of crowds. And I think that's really interesting because public speaking is one of like the greatest fears that people have, right? Like that is like up there with like heights and sharks and stuff. And so it is fascinating to me that like we're like, nah, that's not real. Let's just make people stand up in front of people and present. Like that is something that has kind of been going on for a very long time. I remember doing presentations over and over again. I remember in college, I took a speech and communications class and all of that. But in college, it's like your choice a little bit. But in high school and before that, it's not. And so I do wonder about that. Like, do you guys think that that is something we should be encouraging students to do? Because on the one hand, I do think that there is great value in teaching kids how to articulate their thoughts in a way that is persuasive, in a way that is going to help them empower them, really, because the better communicator you are, the more power you're going to have, especially in social and professional situations. But at the same time, like, it's not that often in many, many people's lives that you're going to stand up in front of 30 people and have to speak. So I don't know. I would love to hear your guys' take on that. Like, should we be asking kids to stand up in front of their peers and perform in that way? Or should we have some sort of other alternate option for them? Because for the most part, what I would do is if there was like an IEP or a 504, that's usually what the way that I differentiated it is I would tell kids like, okay, you don't have to present in front of everyone, but you can present like just to me at break time or something, which was fine when it was only a few kids who were struggling with anxiety, but the numbers of kids struggling with anxiety has continued to go up. And so that might not be as feasible because you can't do that with like 12 kids in a class. That would take up so much time, especially if like the presentation's 3 minutes or whatever. Like, what are some other alternatives? I mean, we could do video, but again, that's also uncomfortable for a lot of kids. I remember right after we came back from COVID, I tried to do a lot of what are they called? It's not Gimkit. There's like a video. Oh my gosh, this is going to bug me now. I'm going to have to look it up. There's like a video platform where you video yourself responding to something and post it. And when we first came back from COVID, like none of the kids would participate in that, or they would like have the camera face down or faced at the wall because they were so fearful of having their faces recorded, which is fascinating because we are in such like a cyber world where so many kids are fine with being videotaped, but I think they've also seen the ugly side of that where that video is then used against them in some kind of nefarious or bullying way. So I don't know. I don't know if like maybe there's a technological option that we can look into, or if we should tell kids to suck it up because we should have to be able to do hard things. But I think maybe that there does need to be a little bit of a difference between the kids who just are a little uncomfortable and kids who have a condition that makes them stop breathing. Like that is absolutely wild to me. And I think he handled it the best way he could have. Like, I don't know what else I would have done other than probably do an EpiPen, which I'm not sure adrenaline is the option that I should have gone with that one. So, and imagining like having parents scream about that as if, you know, you were supposed to like intuitively know that that was going to happen is pretty wild. So yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that, on whether or not we should actually be, you know, pushing our kids to perform in that way when most of us as adults don't really have to. All right, let's listen to the second voice memo sent in for this week.
So when I taught K through 8 PE, it was during one of my third grade classes, and we were playing kickball, and I was pitcher. I was rolling the ball for my classes, and suddenly I had one of the boys behind me announce very loudly that his balls itched, and I turned around, started laughing, and looked at him and asked if he needed to go to the bathroom, you know, to help with his announcement. And he looked at me like it was the craziest question and said, no. And I said, well, maybe we should not announce that out loud. He said, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. And it was one of the stories I don't think I'll ever forget because I needed that laugh at that moment as well.
It is so, so fascinating the things that kids are willing to just say because they don't realize what's like socially acceptable at that point. And I think it's so funny that the kid looked at her like she was crazy. Like I can itch my balls out here, lady. Like, why would I have to go to the bathroom to deal with that? And being the parent of a boy, I so much more appreciate now some of the conversations I would overhear as a student and as a teacher, because it's just such a different way of looking at the world. Like my son, the way he describes things and the way that he goes through life like a wrecking ball is stressing out my older daughter a lot, but is incredibly entertaining for me. And there's been a lot of moments like that where he comes home and is like, I have something to tell you. I know for me, like just having a boy in general has completely changed the way that I see my former students and think about some of the conversations that I would overhear, because it is just a completely different way of going through the world. My son will it's so hard to describe. He will defiantly scooter. And I didn't know that was possible before, but we got him a little scooter 2 Christmases ago. And sometimes I tell him to do something and he just looks at me dead in the eyes and says, no. And then he'll get on his scooter and he'll scooter with like one little leg kicked up in the most defiant way. And I'm like, sir, like that's not actually, you can't do that. And he's gone. He has scootered all the way away. So it's an adventure, and I hear you. And bless elementary teachers, especially PE teachers. I'm sure you guys, the smells you must be exposed to. I can only imagine. It sounds absolutely terrifying. So thank you, you wonderful elementary teachers, for doing what you do. All right, we are going to take a very quick break, and then we will be right back because I have a very cool resource I am very excited to talk to you guys about. All right, guys, and we are back. Okay, so this resource is something that I think is so, so cool when you have something that's really complicated and you have learners that prefer to listen. And this is like, because, that sounds weird, right? Like prefer to listen. But like there are literally some students who like the auditory learning is not something that is effective for them. And so I've used this in my college class and I asked my students what they thought. And I had some that were like, loved it. Others that were like, pass, right? So it is called Notebook LM. It's put out by Google. It's another AI software, but essentially what you do is you take a document and you plug it in, and it can be either like something you upload or it can be something like a link to a website. You can type in a bunch of instructions and it will create a podcast conversation about that document. And so the way that I used it is I had this very long, very boring document that talked about teacher expectations in the state of Indiana that I was using with my students. And I assigned it as like basically, hey guys, listen to this podcast. And then I want you to write some reflections on like a journal entry kind of a thing. And so it basically created a 10-minute conversation over this document that was like 20 pages long. And it condensed it down to something that was very accessible. And so my students who really were into podcasts loved it because it basically, it like auto creates two people talking about whatever the topic is. And it doesn't sound robotic, which is a little haunting and weird. Like it does feel like we're dancing with the devil a little bit with some of this technology, but it creates this conversation between what sounds like two podcast hosts and is very much a back and forth, and it will create the conversation, and as it's going through it you can give it feedback. So for example, it was discussing, I wanted it to talk about two different topics and I felt like it was going too far into one. And so then I told it like, focus more on this topic. And so automatically it changed it so that the speaker was like, actually, I think we should talk a little bit more about blah, blah, blah. And it was so cool and such a good resource that took me like 2 minutes, right? And so that could be used in a bunch of different ways. It also creates a transcript, which is incredibly helpful. So you could give that to your students that are less like auditory, and you could say, hey, here's the transcript, here's the audio. Totally up to you which one you want to use, how you want to like consume this information. But that's part of that universal design for learning stuff we're always trying to do, where we are going in and we're finding different resources and options. And, I'm sure that there's actually probably an additional resource you could find where you could plug that in and it would create some sort of visuals for you as well. But it saved me a ton of time because obviously I could have gone through and done a lecture and done all of that stuff. But if you're going to assign any kind of at home type work, like, and I say it that way because I don't usually assign homework or didn't assign homework when I taught high school, just because I had so many students who worked and I wanted to make sure that they weren't falling behind. But I have, in college, the expectation is they have a lot of work outside. And so I'm trying to diversify the way that they're getting that information. And it's really, really hard to be like, hey, read this 20-page super dry document that I would never want to read. And so this does give us like an extra option. And the version I was using was free. I don't know if that's like a limited time thing, but it does seem like it's something that is being rolled out and might be a really good resource for you, especially if you have students that are working on stuff. And you could even use it and be like, hey, students, like create a podcast about this historical figure and then analyze it. So you could use it as a starting point, even as an assignment, instead of just as a resource for you to give to your students. So lots of really good stuff there. I think it would be incredibly, incredibly helpful in the classroom. Okay, a couple other things I want to make sure I point out. I have a couple of live shows coming up. So when this comes out, I will be in Kansas City very soon after that. So there are actually 2 dates. One has not been announced as I am recording this. So I'm going to be in Topeka, Kansas on May 25th, and I'm going to be in Kansas City, Missouri, I think. I get very confused. I know there was that whole like thing for a while where like didn't people make fun of Trump because of like the Kansas City thing? But then I honestly don't know. Like I know there's 2 Kansas cities and one's in Missouri. And it happened. Those of you guys who are not watching the YouTube are missing out because my little square thing just fell down behind me. I don't know if we were taking bets on how long it would take for that to happen live, but we did it. Episode 2. Yeah, I don't know actually. I know it's at the Funny Bone in Kansas City, but if you were to like nail me to the wall right now and be like, Andrea, is that going to be in Kansas or Missouri? I guess we'll find out. I don't know. I'm going to type in Funny Bone, Kansas City, and then I'm going to go there and I'm going to perform. Oh, it's Kansas City, Missouri. My producer says, okay, great. So if you want to go, that's where I'm going to be, not in Kansas. But I am going to Topeka, Kansas the next day. And I'm going to be performing with some very funny comedians. There's a guy named, I actually can't remember his real last name, but his tag on Instagram is formerly Fat Steven, which I think is really funny. And he's local Kansas City comedian. And then in San Diego, my hometown, I'm going to be performing at Mic Drop in San Diego on June 7th, because I'm flying in June 6th. And I'm very excited about that. All my teacher friends are going to be there. One of my friends I haven't seen in forever that I used to work with when I was a lifeguard and have not seen in 20 years, she's coming with a bunch of teacher friends. So I cannot wait. I hope you guys are able to make that. Also, if you have something that went crazy in your classroom, I want to hear about it. Whether it's you asking students to go up and speak and they they spontaneously stop breathing, or have, hygiene itching issues. I want to hear about it. If you go to podcasterandrea.com, there is like a button at the top that says leave a voicemail, leave a message. You're going to tap that and then it's going to say, okay, great, record. So I cannot wait to hear about all of the crazy things that you guys have going on in your classrooms because people think I'm making it up. Like every single time I do a video that is taken straight most of the time from people have like submitted stuff. I have like changed names. Sometimes I change a grade or like change it from being a boy student to a girl student just to protect privacy and stuff. But like people think I'm lying and I'm like, have you never been in a classroom? Because clearly they haven't if they think that I have to make up anything for the stuff that we do. So yeah, please make sure that you submit those. I cannot wait to hear what you guys have to say. And then, have you guys read Crescent City? Crescent City is like a romantasy book, and that's what we're doing. We're finishing. By the time you listen to this, you will have to catch up with us because we are reading that right now, and it is so good. And Denver, Riley, and I are breaking it down in the patron-only episodes. So if you want access to that, you can join our Patreon, which is so fun. And we get like little behind the scenes stuff. And we're very honest with the books we love and don't love because we have read some that we don't love. And we also have a live once a month. So you definitely do not I was like, do not want to miss out on that. If you have thoughts about what we talked about today, or you have anything else that you want to tell me, or a resource that you think is amazing that you want me to share at the end of the episode, you can email us, Andrea@human-content.com. You can visit us as if I'm like a royal we. You can visit me on Instagram and TikTok @EducatorAndrea, or you can kick it with us. This is the us part. This is the royal we, which is the Human Content Podcast family on Instagram and TikTok @Human Content Pods, which is also where you can see all the other super cool things that the Human Content Podcast crew is doing and all the other amazing podcasts they have out there, including We Are Fine, which is a fairly new one with Lauren Woolley and her husband. And they are amazing and I love them so much. So make sure you guys check that out as well. All right, so I need you guys to do a little homework for me, and I'm going to need you to go over on to wherever you are listening to this podcast and leave some reviews, okay? Because that's how we end up in the rankings and end up having people find us. I would really, really love it and appreciate it so much if you would leave a review, let us know what you are loving about this new season, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, like what are you doing if you haven't subscribed yet? Because then you're going to miss all the new episodes, and that would be like really embarrassing for you. And we do have our full video episodes up on YouTube, which again, you're missing out. You missed the moment. And I'm sure it's going to happen again. And you don't want to miss it next time when the giant square behind my head falls down. Because this time it didn't hit me. Maybe it will next time. Who's to say? Not me. Thank you so much for listening. I am your host, Andrea Forkham. Our executive producers are Andrea Forkham, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Our engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Our recording location is Indiana State by College of Education. To learn more about our How to Survive the Classroom's program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission verification and licensing terms, you can go to podcasterandrea.com. How to Survive the Classroom is a Human Content production.
How to survive the classroom.
Thank you so much for watching. Want more of How to Survive the Classroom? You can watch more episodes right now. Just click on that little box over there. You see it? And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Okay, bye.